Today, we're diving into an early review for what's shaping up to be a huge sci-fi blockbuster, Project Hail Mary. Now, according to this review, this movie isn't just, another flick about space. No, the claim is that it's actually a direct challenge to the entire modern Hollywood system.
Okay, so the core argument here is that Project Hail Mary isn't just a film. It's framed as an answer. It's being set up as a direct response to a big trend that these reviewers feel has totally taken over the industry.
The review really kicks off by setting a scene. They describe a Hollywood that, in their view, is just dead set on pushing cynical, activist-driven movies. And right in the middle of all that, they position Project Hail Mary as something different. Not just a fun movie, but like a potential antidote to the whole thing.
And this slide really lays out the stark contrast they're talking about. On one hand, you've got what they describe as mainstream Hollywood, cynical, preachy, and basically talking down to you. But on the other hand, they're saying Project Hail Mary is the complete opposite. It's hopeful, it's kind, it's pro-human, and in their words, it's wokeless.
All right, so with all that said, what is this movie actually about? Let's get into the plot, because it is pretty high stakes.
So the premise is a classic sci-fi setup, but with a cool twist. There's this mysterious cosmic thing that's basically eating stars, and, oh yeah, our sun is next on the menu. So humanity's last shot is this one guy, a former school teacher played by Ryan Gosling. And the kicker? He wakes up from cryosleep millions of miles from Earth, totally alone. His crew is dead, and he has zero memory of how he even got there. Talk about a bad day.
And the reviewers draw some really interesting comparisons to get a feel for the movie. They say it's kind of like The Martian, with all the intense, science-based problem solving. But it's also got this Castaway vibe because of the deep, deep isolation. And the fact that, the fate of the entire world is literally on this one guy's shoulders.
Okay, so now let's move on to what the reviewers actually loved about the movie. And spoiler alert, they had a lot of good things to say.
First off, a massive point of praise was for Ryan Gosling's performance. One of the reviewers straight up admitted, hey, I've never really been a Ryan Gosling fan, but this movie completely changed his mind. He called the performance special and said, this guy has really got some serious acting chops.
But it wasn't just about the acting. They gave huge props to the story itself. They loved the creative design of the alien species, the really heartfelt buddy film dynamic that develops between the human and the alien, and the clever way it uses flashbacks to tell the story. Plus, they said it was genuinely witty and charming and had this great pro-science message that gets kids thinking.
And here's a really interesting tidbit. This is kind of a comeback story for the directors. We're talking about Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the guys who were famously and very publicly fired from the Star Wars movie Solo. So after all that, they're back with this project. And the reviewers are pretty much saying this movie is proof that, hey, maybe they should have been allowed to finish Solo after all. But of course, it wasn't all sunshine and roses. The review was not 100% glowing, and they definitely pointed out a few key flaws that they felt held the movie back. The biggest complaint, and they both mentioned this repeatedly, was the runtime. They felt the film was just about 20 minutes too long. And their concern wasn't just about pacing, it was practical. They worried that extra length could actually hurt its box office, because, well, you just can't fit as many screenings in a day. They had a few other smaller criticisms too. For one, the inside of the spaceship felt a little cluttered, like a tech overload with just too many screens everywhere. They also weren't fans of a supporting character who they called a cliched Stoic German scientist lady. And they mentioned that the pacing really starts to drag in the final third of the film.
So after all that, the good, the bad, what's the bottom line? What was the final verdict?
Simple question. Is it worth seeing? And the answer is a big, resounding yes. What's crazy is that both reviewers, completely independently, gave it the exact same score, an 8.5 out of 10. They both concluded that the good parts are just so strong that they totally outweigh the flaws. And this brings us right back to where we started. Their final takeaway isn't just a critique, it's a call to action. They're basically arguing that if you support a movie like Project Hail Mary, you're sending a message to Hollywood. You're casting a vote for more optimistic, pro-human movies and fewer of the preachy ones. So really the question they leave hanging in the air is, will audiences actually show up and vote with their wallets?